I am over here jamming away. I love the music, love the music. I'm so excited to be with you. Welcome to TCS Consulting. It's been a minute since we've been on live, and so we are excited to be back. Some very good stuff that's going to help you to really manage life, manage the challenges in life, and show up in life, your career, your business strong. TCS Consulting focuses on leadership and organizational development. How are you showing up as a leader in your life, not your family or your kids or anybody else? Because in order for you to be an effective have to be effective in leading yourself and showing up strong for yourself. Then you can help others to show up strong for themselves. And so in organizations are a what? There's a massive amount of employees. Those employees are people, and those people need to know, they need to know how they work. They need to know what makes them tick, what ticks them off, and how to navigate through this thing called life, this work. And if they're out there trying to be entrepreneurs, this thing called business. And so that's what TCS is all about. It's take center stage. This is your life, your career, your business, own it. And we're speaking to you from the leadership perspective. Taking center stage and owning it with me today is contributing writer of Own It magazine. And she is a powerhouse in her own right and helping women to unclock. And this is so critically important for you as a leader, to disconnect from a system that will have you running, and burning yourself out. And so this is important. So make sure you are staying tuned. And then after you've heard what you hear, you need to get connected to Dr. Stephanie. And she is taking center stage and owning it with me. The woman of the unclock movement.
Hey!
Listen, make sure you have a pad so you can write and take notes because she's getting ready to drop some serious nuggets. We talked and we tapped into a little bit in our other show in regards to pattern behaviors, and how you're subconsciously you have a consistency in how you're showing up across the board, right? And these are patterns of behavioral responses that they're deep in our subconscious. We're doing them automatically because we've conditioned ourselves this way. And what you do is you help them to recondition, to uncondition and recondition themselves. And let's tap into that because you said something about if you're anxious for this, then you're anxious for that, and you're anxious all over the place. And we have in our society today, coming out of the pandemic, it was really revealed the seriousness of the level in which across the board people are operating in a negative
Yeah.
area of mental health.
Yeah.
And so this is the very reason is because they're not unclocking, they're not being present in their lives. And you got to do it. You got to do it. So go into that. Go a little deeper into those pattern behaviors.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me again. It's always a pleasure to connect with you. It just makes me get goosey bumps when I'm with you. And so I'm grateful for that good energy that you and I share collectively. So that's powerful. What I'd like to share with the audience, first of all, is the concept of the importance of understanding naturopathy. When somebody says, "What do you do?" I say, "I'm a doctor of naturopathic medicine." They go, "Oh, I take herbs." And I go, "Oh, geez, that's not what I do." So let's make that clear because there is something called pseudo knowledge. And pseudo knowledge is something that we think that we know, but we've never researched it. We got the information from someone else and we took it as gospel and we ran with it. When you do that and you operate on pseudo knowledge that comes from the outside influences, not your internal observation of it using left and right brain, you fall into patterns, right? So a naturopath is a practitioner that helps you integrate spirit, mind, and body. because the misalignment of your spirit and your mind will create a physiological manifestation. So any natural health practitioner will be doing you a disservice if they don't help you integrate the root cause and understand the manifestation of the physical ailment that you go find somebody for. And so I marry all of those concepts together so my clients can have complete healing. You are not an ears, nose, and throat. You're a spirit, mind, and body. So I needed to make that distinction. So when we talk about patterns, a pattern is something that you kind of fall into. And you fall into a pattern because you decided at an original trigger or trauma, I am never going to let that happen to me again. And every time that happens, I'm going to do X. And so even if you perceive X to be real or imagine, your response is going to be the same way. So if you have an aversion to authority when you were a child and you didn't want to listen to your parents, then you're not going to listen to your teacher. You're going to be very strong-willed and controlling. You're not going to listen to your spouse. You're not going to listen to your pastor. You're not going to listen to anybody because at some point your wounding told you that you could not trust anybody outside of you. And so your pattern becomes you're defensive and you're controlling. That defensive and controlling behavior will lead to a manifestation of, number one, a gastrointestinal problem, right? And it'll run into a gastrointestinal problem because anytime your body feels that there's fight or flight, which is what you put yourself in every time you perceive something to be similar to what you've experienced 10 years ago, your adrenal gland goes, oh, we recognize that emotion. Let's pump out some salt so we can give her some energy for fight or flight. And the more you pump out that salt for fight or flight, the body goes, oh, we recognize that there needs to be a balance. Let's take some salt out of the cells to dilute the salt. And then you find yourself being puffy. That puffiness or extra water in circulating through the body will add pressure on your vessels, creating hypertension. So your patterns can absolutely create your physiological manifestations. And so what we want to transition to is going from being pattern driven into being a person who flows and adopts habits. You know, you hear healthy habits, emotional intelligence. So there's a distinction between a pattern and a habit. A pattern is something that you fall into and it's trauma driven. A habit has something to do with you having a resolve to go, you know what? I'm going to create these stop gaps for myself to shift this fight or flight off. If I'm stressed out because of X, I know that when I go to the gym, I feel good. So I'm going to create that healthy habit that every morning I'm going to wake up at 6 o'clock and I'm going to do 30 minutes of whatever, because that brings me peace. And then from that peace experience, I'm able to start to whittle away at that pattern, because now I've transitioned it into a habit that breaks the chain of that trigger and trauma. Right? I know that was a lot, but I think you got it.
No, that's good, because you have to understand, in order for you to flourish in life, in order for you to begin to, because no matter what, you're not getting away from a challenge. No matter what, you're not getting away from traumas. Traumas are going to happen to you. That's a part of life, you know. Unfortunately, it is. And the minute that you know that and you accept that, you're just like, look, I know that this is going to happen, and begin to see it for what it is, and just know yourself, know who you are, know that it's not permanent. It's just a part of the journey and the process. And don't take everything so deeply personal. Because it has happened to someone else. Something has happened to someone else. And so that's important, because it'll help you to quickly, not, rush through the process, but it'll help you quickly to get a grasp on how you're going to respond and how you're going to allow it to affect you. Because if you don't go too deep, it won't take root and bear fruit if you are able to handle it, earlier. And so it's so important for us to take the time to understand the difference. And we're explaining, naturopathic between, having a natural, holistic, so to speak, is the terminology that they use, path to health. That is herbs and all of that. That's actually becoming internal. You're dealing with internal, that so that nothing external really has power over how you process it internally. So that is, so it's important. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is not only power, guess what? It is foundational. So that when
Mhm.
something comes in that is in conflict with your knowledge, because you have validated, you know that it is reliable, it is a proven, you won't be you won't be, like the Bible says, tossed to and fro with every wind of doctrine, right?
Yeah.
Because you know that you know that you know that you know thyself. And so you know what, you know who you are, you know what has worked for you. You know that. And in that becomes confidence. It's not arrogance. It's not,
Mhm.
when
Mhm.
you start saying to the pattern, I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
Sometimes you got to get violent about stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
You
That's
know,
very
you
true.
got
Yeah.
you got to be violent because it's not going to just go away, and
Mhm.
people are not going to just stop, crossing your boundaries. Sometimes you're going to have to let them know. You have to lean in, and you're going to have to let them know. That's why I say, I get a little gangster, because if I got to let you know, then it's me or you. It's me or you. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's me or you. And if I gotta let you go or let you know, then you deserve that. You deserve to fight for yourself,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's a part of the unclocking process. And you're gonna have to do that with people that are in your, like, that you really, really love, but you just gotta really let them know. Like, no, come on, because they're
Yeah.
taking advantage. So,
Yeah.
it's important to know, because all of that has a rippling effect. Everything influences everything else. There's a cause and effect.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so once you begin to understand patterns, once you begin to be woke to the fact that you are in a patterned response, and that you
Mhm.
have to change that, then that's when the empowerment comes, and the freedom and the ability to unclock and move in that direction that you're talking about. And it's a step-by-step process. It's not something that's done overnight. So share with our audience in regards to, you have an 8-week program.
Mhm.
You have some books out there. So talk to them about your program, your resources. Share with the audience.
Yeah, I love to share with the audience the resources that I offer, but I think it's so important for us to make another distinction. There is a distinction between pain and suffering, right? Pain is inevitable, right? Suffering is not. When you have pain, your pain, wherever it's coming from, is trying to tell you or show you something. If you would give yourself an opportunity to sit with it and to say, what does this mean? How do I work with this? How do I step over this? How do I see the light out of this? Then there's no suffering, right? Suffering is in the mind, pain is in the body.
Mm.
When you can make that distinction, there's no need to suffer and you can just heal the pain. And so, from that perspective, I've written a book called From Panic to Empowerment: How to Stop Pain and Suffering from Taking Over Your Life by Connecting Spirit, Mind, and Body. So, there's a book, there's a workbook, there's a coloring book, and even a journal. And so, when I created that concept, I created from the aspect of, when women come to me as naturopath Dr. Stephanie, they say, well, how can you fix this? What herb or vitamin can I take? What do I do? What do I do? And I go, well, there's a lot of things that we can do. I can give you a hair tissue analysis to determine your biochemical makeup, to see what things are in your system that could be contributing to this diagnosis, and also get the proper diet for you and the proper mineral protocol for you, specific to your body because it came from a lab. That's number one. Number two, we can do a Zytoscan, which I can scan your body with the hand cradle. And from that device, I can see what's going on with your organs. And that tells me the proper minerals or botanicals or herbs that you need instead of you guessing, right? A real practitioner is going to use an assessment to get the answer correctly without guessing, because human error, we don't have time for human error. But that's just taking an apple for an apple. I don't want to take a drug, so can I take something natural? You can, but guess what? That's still not going to work unless you do the work. And that's why I wrote these books and created these resources. So I don't know if you can see it. This is the coloring book. You probably can't see it. It's okay. But it's out there, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why that's necessary is because simultaneously, while we're working on the old stuff that your body's working through, we have to deal with the root cause of it so new stuff doesn't come. That minimizes the pain and completely erases the need for suffering, because now you have a system in place. You have a how do I do this? It's interesting we tell people to do the work. Well, what the hell does that mean? Do the work. Well, you can't do the work unless there's a system, a structure, accountability, and resources. And that's what I offer to women 40 plus, because we're so used to living outside of ourselves. When somebody says to you, turn within, that's a scary place. There's a whole bunch of trauma in there. There's a whole bunch of pain. There's a whole bunch of betrayal. Oh, I don't want to deal with any of that. Let me just throw a party. Or I can plan we live outside of ourselves. I teach women how to come and live internally and not be scared of that, because it's a beautiful place to be. It immediately transitions you out of the little girl's mind, right? Because a lot of the decisions that we make are from the wounded little girl. So when you say, make those tough decisions, well, what mind are you coming from? Are you coming from the 13-year-old that was wounded or traumatized in some way, and she's still running your show subconsciously?
Wow.
So what essentially I do is I help women step into their feminine power as women, not little girls dressed up as women, faking the funk, wearing the mask, because that will never work, and it will always turn into a pain and suffering dynamic, which will never allow you to get out of your patterns to get a habit that's going to work for you.
Yeah, I like how you broke that down with the pain and suffering. And this is just how you know that we have as individuals in a society have just accepted. We just accept their talking points. They talk it, we take their language and we own it, right? Pain, suffering. You know what? Because as a little girl, I don't want to say that I was defiant in a bad way. I've always been defiant in a good way, in a good way for myself. Case in point, me working out and getting myself back into the shape that I want to be in. Because we're told in our 30s, like once we have our kids, that we're just going to have this weight on us. That we're just going to be, big, and it's going to be very difficult for you to get this weight off and that weight off and this weight off. And we just accept that. We're like, well, you know what? It's hard. I go to the gym. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard. Well, I can tell you that I have to be careful in the way that I approach my weight loss, because when the adrenaline kicks in, I'm excited. And because I really want success, not success in the fame and all of this body. I could care less about a red bottom shoe. I don't do that. But success in the sense that I want my body to be a certain way. And once I make that decision, it's going to be that way. I'm going to kick my own butt till it gets to that way. When I want the room organized and structured, when I want things that be done, I get sick. I get mad. I get sick and tired. And is determined. I get determined, and I will shut everything out until I see that goal has come to pass. You have to do that. The reason I say that is because you will immediately have, the minute you're ready to lose weight, you'll have someone come along and say, hey,
You want to go
Marisa,
eat?
go eat here. Girl, you don't need to lose no weight. You look good. You'll have all of that. And the
Yeah.
next thing you know, you're home by yourself and you're like, Dad, I really don't like this weight. I really don't want this. And so you have to get to a place where you create, like you said before, those habits. And you have to, sometimes you're going to have to, like I said, get a little gangster on your friends and say, I'm not eating that. I'm not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But what
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to digress back to my point was pain and suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because my back issue, one of the reasons I put on a little weight, but me transitioning, to this climate and, adjusting and being older and also to the menopause and things like that. But guess what? I was like, I'm not taking this. I'm not going to be in this pain. I'm not going to be chunky and funky. I am not going to, I don't want these hot flashes. And guess what? I don't have the hot flashes anymore because I did research. I got the superfood, and the superfood is doing well with me. I don't have hot flashes at all. We just
Mm-hmm.
it's hot here, and I don't like air conditioning, so it's the fans. And if I move fast enough, sometimes I'm like, dang, it's hot in here.
It's hot in
But
here.
it's
Yeah.
a hot environment, but it's not me having a hot flash. And then also too, my weight is coming down because I was very aggressive in that. And sometimes you have to, in order for you to kick your metabolism in, you got to drastic change. You got to shock your system into burn
Mm-hmm.
mode. And that's, I know how to do that. But what I'm saying here is suffering is totally up to you. It's a choice as to whether or not you want to stay in that level of pain forever. And that means that if you have to take meds and do what you have to do in order for you to get enough relief so that you can build up enough tenacity to get to a place where you're no longer suffering, but that but you made it, you made me woke to that, like, oh my God, pain and stuff, we never separated them. We just took them as a couple, a happy little couple, and we accepted them, not realizing, I just was like, I'm not going to be in this pain. I just I never even thought about how I'm saying no to the suffering part, not realizing that I'm like, I'm not accepting it. The pain may be here, but I'm not accepting it. What I for the back pain was to work on my core, to at least lessen the impact of the pain and slowly build it up. Because the herniated discs are going to be the herniated discs. They're in my neck and in my back. They're going to be
Mm-hmm.
that. But doing the work to figure out how you don't have to stay in a suffering place. But just like you said too, it's like we're saying do the work, but a lot of times the very people that are telling us and the very organizations that are telling us to do the work are not giving the detailed instructions. And if they are giving instructions, they're not detailed enough, or they're so, screwed that you can't even figure out what they're talking about or how to get it done. The systems are not, and the process is not. It's intentionally not made clear so that I believe, so that you stay in the pattern. And so, talk to our audience in regards to, you got that 8 week program. So, and it teaches you how to unclock. And by, just like you said, by the time you're done with the 8 week program, you do what you do the work, then you'll be on to a better pathway. You'll be on to your journey of living that fulfillment in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are 5 steps to the unlocking process. The first one is power up. Allow your spirit, your intuition to be more prevalent than what you're thinking. Because when we're in a low vibrational space, more times than not, as women, we are staying in our right brain and not integrating left and right brain. We're not integrating logic with emotion. right? We're only on emotion, and sometimes that emotion is only negative emotion because it's triggered from a past trauma. So powering up is so important to acknowledge that there's a higher the higher version of myself, the Holy Spirit that lives within me. It's never wrong, it's always right. Let me start leaning on that. Lean not on my own understanding, right? Just allow that spirit to speak. The second one is dismantle limiting beliefs. Dismantling limiting beliefs is so important because we have our limiting beliefs because of pseudo knowledge, and pseudo knowledge is knowledge that we think we understand to be true, like you said, because it was parroted. And so I like to share something with you personally, because you said, well, I have a herniated disc and I know that's going to be there. But the truth of about it is, a herniated disc is just a subluxation, which means the disc, the intervertebral disc, is like bulging out in between the bone. And as you exercise, the synovial fluid in there rehydrates the disc and it can pop back in. So it's not just going to be there. But if you believe that it was because of pseudo knowledge, then that's your understanding of that. But the truth is, herniated discs are fixed every day and all day, and you're actually doing what you need to do to repair it without surgery, without drugs, without anything. So I just wanted to give you that new paradigm, right? The third thing is, once we dismantle limiting beliefs, then we give ourselves an opportunity to refuel. Like, once I start getting rid of all those negative things, and I have energy to bring back to myself for positive things. So I can work out now because my mind is a little clear. I've made a decision about what I will and won't suffer and have pain with, and I'm more free to rejuvenate myself. In that rejuvenation, what happens, you start to do something called alignment. Oh my gosh. You start aligning with the version of yourself that has the purse to your purpose, because there's a version of you who's already where you want to go. Once you align yourself with that version of yourself, then you just kind of flow into your purpose, right? Your creative self starts to come online and you just kind of flow in it. But before you can align and flow in it, you have to embody the energy of who you truly are. And we talked about that in this previous show, about knowing your natural energy of your name, right? Once you can recalibrate yourself and always put yourself back on that knowing, then you can align yourself and flow into your purpose. So there's only 5 steps to unclocking. And once you master those, which is not hard to do because I'm constantly showing you your blind spots, you will be owning it because you truly are unleashed, because you've unclocked your personal power from panic and anxiety and stress and all those things that create this stagnation point, especially for women at our age. Because, one of the things that we stumble upon, we think we know. But here's the truth. You don't know what you don't know. And so what I can tell you, if what you know has gotten you to a place where you're saying, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed, or I'm so frustrated, or that pisses me off every time I see that, then that tells me what you know at this moment is not enough to get you to the next level. And that's why I come in as a naturopath and a wellness coach, a certified coach, to be able to give you the bigger picture so you can move those patterns and habits and make those distinctions between pain and suffering and move into the light. And how I do that is I've married all of my disciplines, right? So I have a bachelor's degree in exercise physiology. I have a master's degree in gerontology. I have an ND in natural medicine and a PhD in natural wellness. And I'm also a certified wellness coach. So over the past 20 years, looking at all the people that I've served and seeing how those problems have manifested, I go, oh, this is the problem, right? It takes a professional to look at their shortcomings. Where was I falling short in helping people the way they expected that they would get help from the naturopathic side?
Right.
Because I didn't always integrate the spirit and the mind. I was just like, okay, well, you have a headache. You may be dehydrated. You might have a parasitic infection. Let's check. Oh, you have an amoeba parasitic infection. Let's give you this homeopathic remedy and you should be good. Well, you are good physiologically for a time. But if that old pattern comes back, then you're susceptible again for reinfestation or reinfection, right? And so there I was falling short. At some point, I was no better than a regular practitioner or an allopath who gave you a prescription drug, because the result was the same. You get a little relief and then it comes back. And then you don't have the side effects, but you still don't have the relief. And so that's when I had to come up with a program and a system for women to get definitively healed. And that's why I call it redefining wellness. It's a redefinition of wellness, because wellness is just, well, I had a cold and I had a bronchitis and now I'm better. Well, no, that's not wellness, because wellness incorporates a quality of life that surpasses anything you've ever had. But you can't get that unless you're spiritually and mentally aligned so you can be physically good. And that's why, as a naturopath, I wanted to make a distinction for our profession, that naturopaths are not someone who just gives you herbs and vitamins. They are very well versed in a lot of disciplines to help you integrate as a whole person. And that's what we need, women at our age. We don't need somebody to just throw us something and say, go on with we need a system. Like, how do I do this? I'm stuck in my own mind. I don't know how to go from A to B. I just know how to fry the chicken. What do I do? And so I hold your hand if you need it. But the course is so in depth that you can go through the course, go through the modules, do your homework, do your workbook, read your book, listen to the audio. I've given you every resource you need for no excuse not to be on top of your game after 8 weeks. And if you have spent 20 years being in dysfunction, marrying pain and suffering, you can spend 8 weeks to correct it.
Wow, that is so good. It's so important because we don't have a system in place that deals with the totality of the woman. And that's important because the one thing about being overwhelmed is the chaos, the lack of order, and then not knowing how to put everything in order, and then keep it there and maintain order. That's something too, because I can organize my space all I want to. Once I start working again, it's going to get a mess again. It's just part of the process. It's a part of the cycle, right? Mm-hmm. So you always have to regroup, regain yourself, and you're always going to at some point, if you're setting a great, you're always going to come to a place of being overwhelmed because it's stretching you. It's stretching you in a way that you've never been stretched before. It's taking you out of your comfort zone. But there is a way to just process through the being overwhelmed. Because there is victory on the other side of that. Well, we've run out of time, but I'm telling you, these conversations are, my God, they're always, you learn more. And I know about the surgery. Did not know that in the process of doing the exercise, it can actually come back into alignment. So that was really, really good. And that was my point. My point was, I'm not taking meds. I never took the pain that I can't be taking all of those drugs because they slow me down. But again, because we're getting ready to go back into a conversation. This is always so informative. And ladies, listen, eat humble pie and get help. Stop getting in your pride. Stop getting in your way. And get what you need. It's private. It's, I know that you have your own way of, your programs that you offer, but it's time for us to get healed. There's nothing like looking at a sister. And I'm talking about black, white, purple, brown, all the women in the world. It's sad and heartbreaking to hear and observe women who are just not fulfilled. It breaks your heart because
it does.
See them happy. You want to see them joyous and enjoying life. And I know for me, it's just disheartening. And so, sisters, I'm encouraging you and urging you to reach out to Dr. Stephanie, get connected with her, and get unclocked. We're out. We love you. Have a blessed week. It's your life only. Take center stage. Get on that runway with them red bottoms and do your catwalk. We're out.